Hello there everyone, it's Aiden here from Push Square, and if you love shooting rooty monsters and shielded up robots in dark post-apocalyptic worlds, then I'm here to tell you that Remnant 2 may be the game for you. This third-person action survival shooter from Gunfire Games releases on PlayStation 5 on July 25th, with early access beginning on July 22nd. But before you go in guns blazing, here's everything you should know about Remnant 2. So first up, you'll notice that big old 2 in the title. Naturally, you may be wondering if you need to play the first game to get on board with Remnant 2's lore-filled worlds. Well, the answer is kinda, but also not really. Remnant 2 is a direct sequel to Remnant from the Ashes, but it's also set a couple of decades later. So naturally, there will be some carryover that new players may be a little unclear on, but for the most part, you'll catch up through this new game's reintroduction to its world. The story, for those unfamiliar, pits you in a post-apocalyptic world where humanity is on the brink of extinction, all thanks to an evil presence from another dimension called the Root. Spoilers for the first game, but it challenges you to fight your way to the epicenter of the interdimensional invasion in a hope to stop the Root, whilst also trying to find the mysterious Ford, the founder of Ward 13, an underground bunker of human survivors. And yes, I know that it's a lot. You discover and free Ford and defeat the Root for good, but of course we're here with Remnant 2, so the Root have made their mysterious return. You'll run into characters like Ford once more as you operate out of Ward 13. Moving on then, what type of game exactly is Remnant 2? Well, since the first game, the series has been tagged as Dark Souls with guns, where players will delve into different worlds to take on various creatures and enemies. You'll level up your character as well as discover valuable loot. With that Souls-like comparison, you can of course expect combat to be tough and very challenging. Thankfully though, unlike Souls games, there are difficulty options here, 4 to be exact. Survivor, Veteran, Nightmare and Apocalypse will all offer varying experiences that allow you to seep yourself into Remnant 2's combat at a level you're comfortable with. It must be said though that even at its easiest, Remnant 2 can get a bit hectic. A new feature for the sequel, you'll now be able to select from 5 different character archetypes. Gunslingers offer efficient weapon handling, handlers bring a buff-based companion to battle, challengers are your tanky damage dealers, medics are your support, and hunters are focused on long-range precision shooting. Each of these come with their own abilities, skills, and weapons, allowing you to delve deep to discover the right build for you. There are even some secret archetypes hidden in the game as well. Once you've picked your archetype and head off to fight against the Root, you'll enter procedurally generated worlds. Now, procedural generation was important to the first game, which typically mixed the rooms and enemy spawn points up, but in Remnant 2, Gunfire Games is taking it to the next level. You can explore variations of the same worlds and will encounter different enemy types, different enemy spawns, different room layouts, even boss fights, NPCs and quests will differ depending on the version of that world you load into. That means that Remnant 2 has near endless replayability. Not only can you play through on new archetype characters, but the enemies and locations will differ on each run, even more so if you're joining other players' worlds. If you and your friends are playing separately, each will have their own unique experience. Luckily though, your unique experience can be shared because you have the ability to play Remnant 2 in squads of 3, and it vastly amplifies your experience, especially with each player bringing something unique with their own archetype builds. Sadly, if you're hoping to play with friends on another platform, cross-platform support will not be available at launch. There's always hope that this will happen down the line, but as of recording, no official announcement has been made. Combat has been tightened up for Remnant 2 with far snappier gunplay. With a stamina bar, you'll be able to sprint and dodge roll away from enemies, as well as jump between gaps, a feature not present in the first game. You'll also be able to backstep dodge, which you can do by pressing square and X, or circle and X at the same time. With guns being at the heart of combat, you can expect to wield rifles, shotguns, pistols, submachine guns, as well as swords, spears and hammers. Weapons can be crafted and upgraded by collecting materials when out in the world, and if you defeat a boss, they will drop a unique item that can be used to create a new weapon or mod ability. Scrap is the main currency used to upgrade your weapons, and it's relatively scarce, so while it may be tempting to buy up every new weapon you come across, it will actually serve you better to put that scrap into upgrading those weapons. This will become especially handy in the latter parts of your first campaign run. However, if you do need a bit more scrap, which you'll almost always need, Keep an eye out for chests in the open world. These will provide you with additional scrap as well as other materials. A key ability for your weapons are modifications and mutator slots. Modifications can range anywhere from healing bursts to incendiary rounds, whereas mutators can provide buffs to you and your weapons. Modifications in particular are essential for those tougher combat encounters, and you'll need to keep an eye out on your cooldown to ensure that you're using them regularly. To unlock mutators and modifications, it's going to cost you, so as I've mentioned, get out there exploring, collecting scraps and various other materials. Then when you're ready, head back to Ward 13, where vendors like Ava McCabe or Dwell will sell you modifications and mutators for your weapons for scrap and relic dust. Rings are another important part of your loadout, as they can provide stat bonuses to your characters. You have 4 available ring slots, so while to start you may not have much of a choice in what to use, once you get a little collection going, be sure that the rings you have selected are relevant to the world that you're in and the enemies that you're fighting. This also applies to your amulet slot, which will offer a far more noticeable buff. You'll find these by exploring the worlds and beating bosses. Relic fragments can also be equipped into your relic slots, which will offer further stat bonuses. These are typically fractional bonuses, but partnered up with everything else can make a real difference. Lastly, for your character, you'll discover trait points out in the world, which can be applied to a bunch of presets such as health or stamina. When out in the world, you'll come across world shards, which act as bonfires from Dark Souls. You can save your progress here, use it as a fast travel point, respawn fallen teammates, and most importantly, use it to replenish your healing items, ammunition and health. However, be aware that if you do this, you'll also refresh enemy spawns. When squadding up, it is really important to diversify your archetypes. Some bosses will be very hard on you, so it is important to have someone that can help with healing, someone that can maybe deal the brunt of the damage, and maybe someone that can do a bit of both. As a nice little bit of info, when out with a squad, the loot pool is shared, so if one character is off exploring and comes across a chest with a nice ring, all players in the squad will be gifted that ring as well. Now, you shouldn't be afraid to leave a boss behind if you're really struggling to work on upgrading your character and gear. Leveling up your character will unlock passive perks which are specific to your archetype, and of course, upgrading your gear can mean better damage. You can leave the world that you're in behind, go off somewhere else, level up a little, and then access that original world again from the World Stone in Ward 13. With all of that said, remember that you can experiment with multiple archetypes. There's no way to trade items between characters sadly, but with the nature of the game you can get right into the action whilst trying out a new skill set. And lastly, Remnant 2 brings a welcome boost to graphics over its predecessor, and for those playing on PS5, you'll be glad to know that there are 3 performance modes available at launch. Quality runs at 30 FPS with improved visuals, balance runs at 60 FPS, and there's even a performance mode that runs at an uncapped FPS. And that is everything you need to know about Remnant 2 before jumping into the game this week. If you've been checking out the game already, which went into early access for Ultimate Edition players, let me know your own handy tips down in the comments, along with the coolest world you've explored to date. Mine was a cathedral-like area that genuinely impressed me. Anyway folks, if you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, and if you'd like to see more PlayStation video content like this, then why not subscribe? I've been Aaron, this has been Push Square, and I'll catch you in the next one.